Good morning. We're looking at writing today. So you should be able to see my screen. Okay. So we're looking at punctuation, how to use punctuation correctly, looking at a wide range of punctuation markers. So our aims and outcomes this morning. By the end of this session, you must use full stops, capital letters, question marks, exclamation marks correctly, and always use a capital letter for the personal pronoun I. Know what a comma is and when to use. Use apostrophes to show where missing letters go, such as in the word don't. You should know when to use colons, know when to use it using an apostrophe and it without an apostrophe. Know when to use an apostrophe to show belonging or possession and describe what inverted commas are used for. You could understand and apply the correct punctuation rules when using inverted commas. But what do you need to know at level 2? So you'll be expected to correctly use apostrophes, commas, inverted commas and colons, and all the skills from lower levels as well, which includes capitalization, full stops, question marks, exclamation marks. So we're going to start by watching a video showing us how to use commas.
Commas. A comma marks a slight break between different parts of a sentence and, when used properly, can make the meaning of a sentence clearer. These are the main cases when you need to use a comma.
In lists. In direct speech. To mark off parts of a sentence.
Using commas to separate items in a list. Example:
Don't forget the passports, the tickets, the travel guide and the money.
You usually don't need a comma before the final item in the list. However, in some cases, it can improve the understanding. Example:
There's a choice of tuna, beef and ham and cheese.
The comma makes it clear that ham and cheese is one filling and not separate items.
Using commas in direct speech. A comma is used to introduce direct speech and at the end of a passage of direct speech. Examples:
Dan mumbled, "All right then." "All right then," mumbled Dan.
Note that the comma is inside the speech marks. Direct speech can be broken up with the information about who is speaking. In this case, you need 2 commas, one to end the first passage of speech and another before the second passage. Example:
"Yes," she said, "I will marry you."
Using commas to separate parts of a sentence. Commas are used to separate a part of a sentence that is an aside and not essential to the understanding of the main sentence. Example:
She will, of course, be travelling by car.
Commas are also used in complex sentences to separate the subordinate clause from the main sentence. Example:
If you build it, he will come.
The comma is used when the subordinate clause comes at the beginning of the sentence.
If the main sentence appears first, the comma is not normally needed.
If the subordinate clause appears in the middle of a sentence and is non-essential, it is separated by a pair of commas. Example:
Greg, who has 2 kids, works nights. The
main sentence is Greg works nights. The fact that he has 2 kids is extra non-essential information, so we separate it with commas.
If the clause contains information that is essential to the meaning of the sentence, commas are not used.
To check if you've used a pair of commas correctly, try removing the information within the commas altogether, and then see if the sentence still conveys the same meaning.
To recap, commas are used in 3 main ways. In lists,
I would like a sandwich, crisps and a drink.
in direct speech,
I would disagree, said Martha.
and to mark off parts of a sentence.
My uncle, Jim, is coming to stay.
Any questions about the information from the video? Okay. So when to use a comma, we're going to look at lists first. Commas are used to separate items in a list. But at the end of the list, if you've got the word and, you don't put a comma before that word. So if you see the example there, I got GCSEs in maths, English, PE and art. There's a comma after each item apart from PE because it is before the and. Where should the commas go in these sentences? So have a look at those sentences. Where do you think the commas should go? The office shuts at 6 on Mondays, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Can you tell me where the commas should go there? So if you unmute yourself, you can tell me where the commas should go.
Between Monday and Tuesday.
Good. So between Monday and Tuesday. Well done. You can park in bay 3, 4, 6, 7 or 9.
Between 3 and 4, 4 and 6,
Yeah.
6 and 7.
Well done. But not before that last or the
No.
that's like using the word and. So yeah. Bring some ID, such as a passport, driving license or bank card. So we've got 3 items there.
Between
Yeah, go on.
passport and driving license.
Good. Well done. Okay. So direct speech now. So looking at a comma with direct speech. You should use a comma to show when somebody is talking. So the first example, before speech. The boss said, and then we see the comma, we'll finish early this Friday. So it's before the speech. After speech, so when the speech comes first in the sentence. We'll finish early this Friday, said the boss. You can see the comma there within the inverted commas, the speech marks. Mid-speaking, yes, comma, said the boss, comma. We'll finish early this Friday. So if the direct speech is broken up to tell us who is talking, so there, said the boss, then there'll be those 2 commas used, as you can see them placed there. So have a look at those 2 examples. The first one, Ben asked, what time does the shop open? So where should the comma go in that sentence?
After asked.
Good. Well done. So before the speech starts, well done. 2, 9 on weekdays, replied Raj, but it is 8 at the weekend.
After weekdays.
Good. And we need to make sure it's within the inverted commas, so it comes before them, not afterwards. Good. And where else?
After Raj.
Good. Well done. So separating the parts of a sentence. This is done before a conjunction. So conjunctions but, and, so, those sorts of words that that join the parts of a sentence together. He tried hard but didn't get the job. So you can see there before the but, which is the conjunction, we've got a comma. Giving additional information. The warehouse where I work is on the business park. So when additional information is added to a sentence, also known as a subordinate clause, then we put commas before and after it. The way to recognise the additional information or the subordinate clause is if you take it out, does the sentence still make sense? So the warehouse is on the business park. That's the main clause, but we've added some information. The warehouse where I work is on the business park. So because it's additional information to the main meaning of the sentence, it has a comma before and after. So joining two statements, before starting work, I go to the gym. And when addressing someone, so using someone's name or title, or after an introductory word in a sentence. So, Bina, can we postpone our meeting? It could be madam, sir, a teacher, but using that name or title, you use a comma after it before the rest of the sentence. And yes, that's a good idea. So that introductory word, yes, comma after it. Think about how the comma is often described as where you would pause in the sentence. So if you think when you say a sentence with one of those introductory words, yes, that's a good idea. Hello, how are you today? So that introductory word is followed by a comma. So bearing those things in mind, where should the commas go in these sentences?
Between job and but.
Good. Yeah, so before the conjunction but, well done. The interviews for the warehouse jobs will be in the main office.
After interviews.
Yeah. And there's another one in this sentence.
Between warehouse and jobs. Hang on.
So we've got
between jobs and where.
Yeah, so we've got additional information here for the warehouse jobs. So the interviews will be in the main office, would make sense on its own, but we've got that additional information. Well done. In a hard contest, our company won the export prize.
Between the contest and our.
Good. So putting the two statements together. Yes, the manager is on annual leave.
After yes.
Good. Well done. So that introductory word. So now this is a common error. So we're actually going to watch a video about this just to highlight how not to use the comma. So I'll just share this with you.
One of the most common punctuation mistakes is the comma splice. The comma splice occurs when two complete sentences are separated by a comma instead of the correct end of sentence punctuation. The error occurs because the sentences appear to be so closely related, but the correct punctuation marker is a full stop, or occasionally a question mark or exclamation mark. Alternatively, you can combine the sentences into one compound sentence. Compound sentences are joined by one of the 7 coordinating conjunctions.
For,
And,
nor,
but,
or,
yet.
so.
The first letter of each of them spells fanboys. For example,
Jake works 6 days a week, but he gets Mondays off.
a comma is usually placed before the conjunction unless the two sentences are very short. For example,
Stay put and tidy your room.
alternatively, you can combine two ideas into one complex sentence using a subordinating conjunction, such as if,
While,
although,
because,
and since. A subordinating conjunction allows you to play around with the meaning of the sentence. For example,
it promises to be a good weekend if Ethan and Hetty are coming to stay.
it promises to be a good weekend, although Ethan and Hetty are coming to stay. Note that a comma is not needed. A complex sentence can begin with the subordinating conjunction reversing the sentence. For example,
Although Ethan and Hetty are coming to stay, it promises to be a good weekend.
if Ethan and Hetty are coming to stay, it promises to be a good weekend. If you're starting a complex sentence with a subordinating conjunction, a comma is used.
To recap, avoid the comma splice. Never separate two complete sentences with a comma. Use the correct end of sentence punctuation or an appropriate conjunction. My day is usually very busy, yet I find it quite fulfilling. While my day is usually very busy, I find it quite fulfilling.
Any questions about the video? Okay.
No.
How not to use the comma. So as we've seen there, the comma splice is a wrongly used comma when it should be a full stop or a conjunction. So I got 5 GCSEs at school. Now I'm doing a plumbing apprenticeship. We should have a full stop there after school. So if we look at the sentences below, we can see the comma splice where it's been incorrectly used and then the correct punctuation. So the first one, the office is open 5 days a week. It is shut at the weekend. So it should be a full stop. So if you want to read those sentences, and you can see the correction underneath. So I'll just give you a moment to look at them. Okay, any questions? Okay. Inverted commas. So they're also known as speech marks, and they show direct speech. They show when we're reading, we can see when what someone's actual words are that have been spoken. So it's the written version of what somebody says out loud. And there are rules for how we use them. So end punctuation marks, so the punctuation that will come at the end of a sentence, a full stop, a question mark, or an exclamation mark, they will always come within the speech marks. Can you answer the phone, John asked. So we can see the question mark there is within the speech marks. Amir said, I'm sorry, I'm late. So the full stop is within the speech marks. If direct speech comes after text that isn't spoken, you need to use a comma before the speech and then start and finish the speech with inverted commas. Amy said, you've been late every day this week. So we've got a comma after Amy said, but the end punctuation, the full stop, is still within the speech marks at the end. You need to remember the normal rules of using a capital letter to start a sentence. So if the direct speech is a complete sentence, such as Amy's here, you've been late every day this week, then it should have a capital letter. How should these sentences be punctuated? Do you want to go to lunch early? Sam asked. So what punctuation should we be using?
Question mark
Yeah,
and
question
full
mark,
stop.
please?
Early after early
Yeah.
and full stop after asked.
And what about the speech marks or inverted commas? Let's have a look. So you can see that here.
Yeah.
Here, the speech marks, okay? Yep. So looking at question 2, Katie said, I am going to the stock room. So again, what punctuation should we be using?
Comma after said.
Yep.
And full stop after room.
Yeah. And what about the inverted commas? So what?
The inverted commas go to before
Yeah. Before I. Yeah, before
after
I am. Yeah. Good. Okay. Let's have a look. Well done. And Imran, serve that customer, please, said Grace. So Grace is the one speaking. What does she say out loud? Where should our inverted commas or speech marks go?
Serve that customer.
So
please. Yeah.
Yeah, so serve that customer, please. What about Imran?
Comma after Imran.
Yeah, but Imran also needs to be within the speech marks because Grace is saying his name.
Okay.
Okay. So Imran, serve that customer, please, said Grace.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's lots of rules. Let's have a look more closely. If direct speech is a complete sentence broken down with some non-text speech, some non-spoken text, you need to use a comma inside the speech marks after the first part of the text. So it's easier to explain this by looking at the example. If you finish the stock take, said Rupi, could you call the supplier to find out what has happened to yesterday's order? So the words Rupi is saying are, if you finish the stock take, could you call the supplier to find out what has happened to yesterday's order? But when the writer has written down his words, they have broken it up with who is telling us who is speaking. So in the middle of the spoken words, the writer has put said Rupi. So at the start of the sentence, or at the start of this text, just find the author or the writer has used they have opened the inverted commas because they're starting with the speech. So we've got the inverted commas there, you can see. If you finish the stock take, but then they're telling us who is talking, said Rupi. So they have to close the inverted commas. Because said Rupi is not part of the speech. Okay, so does that make sense? So the inverted commas are only around the part that somebody is saying out loud. Any other words, descriptions by the writer are not within the inverted commas. Could you call the supplier? So after the non-spoken part, we then use a comma because the spoken part, we're still within the speech. Could you call the supplier to find out what has happened to yesterday's order? So we've got the inverted commas again, finished with a full stop. And then closed the, why does it keep doing that? Close the inverted commas. Okay, so they're at the end. So any questions about that? There will be, the session is being recorded, so you will be able to access this sometime next week. They will let you have a link to it, I believe. So you can have another look at this. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now. Okay. So let's put that into practice. Let's have a look at these examples. Can you stack the shelves first, said Jenny, then tidy the storeroom? So what is Jenny saying? So can you tell me what are the words that Jenny says out loud there?
Can you stack the shelves?
Yeah, so can you stack the shelves first, and what else does she say?
Tidy the room, then tidy the room.
Good. So these are the parts of the sentence that need the inverted commas. Okay. So starting at the beginning. So we start the sentence with the inverted commas, if it lets me write them. So there we go. Anyway, I think you get the idea. It's not letting me for some reason.
Okay.
So,
okay.
There we go. Right, so, get rid of that. I think I know why. So, can you, there we have our inverted commas. What about this can? What do we need to change here? What should the first word in the sentence have?
Capital letter.
Good. So we should have can. Can you stack the shelves first? So you've told me that that's the first part of what she says. So what punctuation do I need after first?
Inverted commas and
Yeah. But what
question mark? Question mark and inverted comma.
Right. She's still talking here, then tidy the storeroom. So that, can you stack the shelves first, then tidy the storeroom? So the question mark would come at the very end of what she says. Okay. So it would go there. So here, because we're breaking up what she says to write who is talking, said Jenny, we just put a comma because she hasn't finished talking yet.
Okay.
And then we have another comma after Jenny.
Yeah.
Before we reopen this the speech marks. And then at the end, the speech marks go after the question mark. Okay.
Yeah.
So, let's have a look. So let's look at number 2. Sorry to interrupt, said Tom, but can you show me how to use the scanner, please? So what does Tom say? What are the words that he says out loud?
Sorry to interrupt.
Yep. And what else?
And can you show me how to use the scanner, please?
But can you show me? So we need to make sure we've got all the words in. So let's look at how that is punctuated. So again, because this is one sentence, but the writer has broken it up with said Tom, it's all one sentence. So sorry to interrupt. We've got our comma and then the inverted commas here. And then when we reopen the sentence, or the speech rather, we've got the inverted commas. And then we finish it as usual with the full stop and the inverted commas. So, excuse me, Emma said, have you got 5 minutes for a quick chat? So again,
Excuse me.
yeah, excuse me, have you got 5 minutes for a quick chat is the
Uh-huh.
spoken part. So we've got the comma, inverted commas, but we have to reopen them here. And then we end them like usually with the final punctuation within or before the inverted commas. Okay.
Sorry, just before you move
Yeah.
on the second sentence, why is it full stop at the end, not question mark?
Yeah, it should have a question mark there. You're right. Well spotted. So that's, oh, I've still got it online. So that should be a question mark. You're right. Well spotted there. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, because she's asking a question. So we should have a question mark. Well done. And it should be the same here. Can you show me how to use the scanner? So we should have a question mark there as well. Okay. So as well as showing when somebody is talking or direct speech, inverted commas are also used to quote from a source. So if you are quoting another document, another text, then you would use inverted commas to show that these are not your words, but they're somebody else's words that have been written. Okay. So often used in reports, in academic essays, in news articles. You'll often see evidence of this or examples of this. So if you look at the example at the top, these include, so this part here is from a document. So these include an Eastern domed bathhouse with evidence of wall paintings excavated in 1938. So it sounds like it's some kind of academic text. And the words in inverted commas have, excuse my wiggly line, are being taken from somebody else's writing, somebody else's book or report. Okay. And then after that, the writer has to say where it came from. So they'll refer to where they've taken these words from. And another thing to remember here is that you don't have to use all of the words. So sometimes only part of a quote is used. So any missing parts, we have the 3 dots. So they were used in complex urban sequences as well as undertaking hand-drawn building excavations and plans of the exposed structures. So you can take the part that that you need for your own writing, and where you're missing anything out, you put ... If you put somebody else's writing into your own words, then you don't need to use speech marks, but you would still need to say where you got this information. So you'd still need to have, like here, you would still need to say where that information came from. So inverted commas, we will look at that in a bit more detail in another session. So another way of using inverted commas is for effect. So sometimes you will see just single speech marks instead of the double ones. Both are correct. And you'll see both in when you're reading. So often a title or name. So if you were writing about a particular book or film, then the title would be in inverted commas. Or to show an informal name. So here, the little steamer crosses the river up to 12 times a day. So the little steamer is the name of the boat. So it's in inverted commas just to tell us that's the name of the boat. To cast doubt on something. So here you can see the so-called bill is nothing more than a smokescreen. So-called is referring to the bill. So this would be to do with government and making laws. So-called bill. So this person writing this sentence doesn't really think that's a valid description. And also to mock something or express sarcasm. So if you don't really believe what somebody else describes something as. Okay. So we're going to watch another video. I'll just get that open for us. So this is about apostrophes.
Starting apostrophes. Punctuation gives meaning to writing. Punctuation marks, like commas or semicolons, are not just squiggly marks on the page that we pop into our writing with our fingers crossed, hoping for the best. They help the reader to understand what the writer is saying and are used to clarify meaning in text. Apostrophes do 2 jobs, and only 2 jobs. In this unit, we will look at one of the jobs that an apostrophe does. It will get you started using basic apostrophes. Let's start with, what does an apostrophe look like? Well, this is an apostrophe. The apostrophe's first job is to show that something is missing. This job can be called a couple of names, such as omission. Omission comes from the root word omit, which means to leave out. Or contraction. Contraction means that a word has been shortened. Don't worry about the name, just worry about the job it does. Sometimes knowing the name can help you to remember how to use them, but it's not really important that you know it. You are probably using this kind of apostrophe all the time, but just don't realise that this is what is happening. Let's look at an example. Here we have the words do not. We want to make do not sound less formal, so we shorten the word to don't. We push the two words together, take out the letter O in not, and put an apostrophe in place of the O. Do not becomes don't. The apostrophe shows the reader that a letter is missing. Here's another example, this time taking out two letters. Take the phrase I will. Again, we want to sound less formal, so we shorten the phrase to I'll. We push the two words together, take out the letters W-I in will, and put an apostrophe in place of the W-I. I will becomes I'll. The apostrophe shows the reader that two letters are missing. Here are some more common examples. Should not becomes shouldn't. We have becomes we've. They are becomes their. It is becomes its. She had becomes she'd. Take care with these. Cannot is can't. Here you aren't putting two words together, just replacing missing letters with the apostrophe. Will not becomes won't. This is an irregular example and doesn't follow the rules. You need to learn this one. Must not, mustn't. This looks a bit strange when written, but it does follow the rules. Stick to what you know about these kinds of apostrophes and you can't go wrong. Shortened words are more common when we speak. We usually use this kind of apostrophe when we are writing something informal, such as a letter or email to a friend. Don't use shortened words and this kind of apostrophe in formal writing, such as a letter to someone you don't know, or in an essay or a report at work.
Okay, any questions about that video? So using apostrophes, we use them to show possession or belonging and for omission. So let's look a bit more at omission, which means to miss out. So apostrophe used for omission means it's used in place of missing letters. So won't, can't, mustn't, and so on, as we saw in the video. One thing to note is that an apostrophe is never used to show something is plural. So when in English we had an S on the end to show something is plural, it never has an apostrophe for that reason. You will see this used incorrectly in shops and in restaurants and on signs, but it's wrong to use an apostrophe when it's a plural. So let's look at omission. So we'll look at each sentence. Has an apostrophe been used correctly? I won't be able to work late tonight. So is that apostrophe used correctly? So what do you think? So we're looking at the word won't. So is that correct or incorrect? Okay, so we're looking at apostrophes for omission. So let me just turn this off. Okay. So so omission means to miss out. So here we're looking at when an apostrophe is used in place of missing letters. So the word won't, in more formal writing, it would be will not. So Do you think that apostrophe is correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that one's correct. Good. Don't worry about the spreadsheet. So has it been used correctly there?
Yeah.
Good. I can't find the clipboard. So can't is our shortened word. Where should the apostrophe go?
Between N and T.
Good, well done. We'll send the parcels today. So has that been used correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah. The company is known for its quality produce. So this is one we need to be careful of. So with its, if I just type it, so it is and so okay, let me just move my right, there we go. So it is goes to it with an apostrophe. When we're showing belonging or possession, we never use an apostrophe in its. So this is incorrect because companies, we're talking about the produce belonging to the company. So it should just be ITS without an apostrophe.
Yeah.
Yep. And number 6, I'll be at lunch from 12 until 1. So we're looking at the aisle. Do you think that's been used correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah, well done. Okay. So we're going to look at a video to find out more about apostrophes. So I'll just share that with you.
Developing apostrophes. Punctuation gives meaning to writing. Punctuation marks like commas or semicolons are not just squiggly marks on the page that we pop into our writing with our fingers crossed, hoping for the best. They help the reader to understand what the writer is saying and are used to clarify meaning in text. Apostrophes do 2 jobs and only 2 jobs. In this unit, we will look at the more challenging job of the apostrophe. It will give you more confidence in using the trickier kinds of apostrophes in your writing. Let's start with, what does an apostrophe look like? Well, this is an apostrophe. The apostrophe's second job is to show that something belongs to something else. This job can be called a couple of names, such as possession. Possession comes from the root word possess, which means to own something. Belonging. Belonging means that something in the phrase belongs to something else. But don't worry about the name, just worry about the job. Sometimes knowing the name can help you to remember how to use them, but it isn't really important to know it. You may be using this kind of apostrophe sometimes, but perhaps don't understand why you are really doing so. There are a few stages to understanding this rule, so we will take it a step at a time. Make sure you are happy that you understand each section before moving on. Otherwise you may get confused. Showing belonging with one owner. First we will look at showing belonging when there is only one owner. We have a boy. We have a blue ball. The blue ball belongs to the boy. If we wanted to write that in a sentence, we could say, the blue ball belongs to the boy. Or we could say, the boy's ball is blue. We know that the ball belongs to the boy, and to show this to the reader, we place an apostrophe followed by an S after the boy's ball. Here's another example. We have a bicycle. It has 2 punctured tyres. The tyres belong to the bicycle. If we wanted to write that in a sentence, we could say, the punctured tyres belong to the bicycle. Or we could say, the bike's tyres are punctured. We know that the tyres belong to the bike, and to show this to the reader, we place an apostrophe followed by an S after the bike. The bike's tyres. So, with this rule for apostrophes, you are always asking yourself what belongs to what. Where do we put the apostrophes here? Tom's ice cream was delicious. Here, the apostrophe shows that the ice cream belongs to Tom. The chair's legs are broken. Here, the apostrophe shows that the legs belong to the chair. The girls played tennis. Did you want to put an apostrophe in this example? Be careful. There is nothing that belongs to anything in this sentence. Here, we just have a sentence about two girls who are playing tennis. Nothing belongs to a girl. And because there is no belonging, then there is no need to use an apostrophe. Do not put apostrophes everywhere you see the letter S at the end of a word. Make sure you are confident with this stage before carrying on to the next.
Okay. Any questions about that video? Okay, let's have a look at some examples. So possession means belonging to something. When the apostrophe is used for possession, it means it's used to show belonging. Simon's car broke down. So is this apostrophe used correctly to show possession?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. What belongs to Simon in that sentence?
It's a car.
Good. Okay. The company's factory is purpose-built. So has this been used correctly?
Yeah.
So what belongs to the company?
The factory.
Good. The black shoes are mine. Is that
That's wrong.
It's wrong. Well done, because
Yeah.
it's just a plural. It's not
Yeah.
showing possession. It's more than one shoe. We never use an apostrophe that. These are Ben's keys.
Yeah, that's correct.
Good. The woman's bicycle was stolen.
Yeah,
Yeah, well
that's
done.
correct.
That's correct. Good. So again, possession means belonging to something. Ben's house is near the town. The apostrophe and the letter S after Ben shows that the house belongs to Ben. So let's look at these sentences and decide if they need an apostrophe. Sue's job is rewarding. So does anything belong to Sue in that sentence?
Yeah, the job.
Yeah, good. So the apostrophe would go where?
Sue's.
Yeah, well done. Sue's should be Sue's with an apostrophe. The shoes were worn.
No, it
No.
says like that.
Good. So it's just a plural. Shoes is plural, so no apostrophe. The computer screens were cracked. So should screens, does that need an apostrophe?
No.
No, good. It's just a plural. That's why it's got an S. The company's head office is in London. So does that need an apostrophe?
Yeah,
Good. Where should the apostrophe go?
companies.
Yeah, well done. Good. It can be confusing, the apostrophe, and common mistakes are using an apostrophe before an S that makes a word plural. You've spotted that on the exercise we've just done, so well done. So, for example, footballers ran on the pitch using an apostrophe, but there's no possession there. It's just a plural, so just be aware of that. The shop sold prawns sandwiches. So where we've got a word that does not need an S to be a plural, that you see people adding an S and an apostrophe. So it's a compound noun. It doesn't need an S to make it plural. And even if it did, it wouldn't need an apostrophe because it's not showing possession. The women's toilet was on the left. So women's is an irregular plural. So rather than woman's, to make it more than one woman, it becomes women's. So the apostrophe should be before the S, not after it. Okay, so here the apostrophe is in the wrong place. It should be before the S.
Yeah.
Okay. And as we already mentioned, being aware of its, which shows belonging, and its, which shows it is. It's a contraction of it is, and its, where there is belonging. So it's time to go would be it is time to go. We do use an apostrophe. I don't like it when it's cold or when it is cold. There's a contraction, so we do use an apostrophe. But when it's a possessive it, so the dog chased its tail, which tail is spelled incorrectly there, I've just noticed. So the dog chased its tail. The tail belongs to it, the dog. We don't use an apostrophe for that possession. Its strength is its accuracy. So we've got two possessive it's there showing possession, so it doesn't need an apostrophe. Okay, colons are used to introduce a list. So those two dots there are colons. So, for example, there are 3 flavours available: vanilla, mint chocolate chip, and strawberry. So, colons used to introduce lists or bullet points. Be careful, don't use a colon where you could just write a regular list with using commas, like we looked at earlier in this session. So, a list as a sentence, a regular sentence, we don't need a colon for. And sometimes you will see colons used instead of an apostrophe to introduce speech. This is less common. Shakespeare said, "All the world's a stage." So they're introducing that. They've used a colon. So if you have a look at those, can you spot the errors? You need to bring the following items: a sleeping bag, a torch, and waterproofs.
Yeah, after items.
Yeah, so we should have a colon here. Good. The Model T Ford, which was invented in the early 20th century, wasn't on display. So this isn't looking for a colon. This is looking for a comma.
After century.
Good. Yeah. In the words of Oscar Wilde, I'd rather be somewhere else. So we're looking for inverted commas.
I would rather be somewhere else.
Excellent. Granny Smith apples are 1.85 per kilo. So where's the error in that sentence?
The apostrophe is on the wrong.
Excellent. Yeah. So it's plural. It's more than
Grannies.
one apple. We don't need an apostrophe. The school was nothing more than a shack. So what's been done wrong in that sentence? What?
The comma.
Yeah, we don't
after
need any
the
commas. Yeah. The children's clothes needed washing. So
apostrophe on children's.
yeah, so we should have an apostrophe there. Beef's lasagna for tea, everyone.
No apostrophe.
Yeah, good. No apostrophe, and we don't need an S either. It should just be lasagna. The dog loved to chase its own tail.
No apostrophe, just says.
Yeah, well done. So that just shows you all the corrections that you've told me. Oh, and then we'll just have a quick quiz to check understanding. What do inverted commas do? Sometimes called speech marks. What do they do? So show possession, separate lists, show omission, or show direct speech.
Show direct speech.
Good, well done. Commas are used to separate items in lists, help punctuate direct speech, separate the parts of a sentence, or all of those things.
All of them.
Yeah, well done. An apostrophe goes below letters, next to plurals, in a simple sentence, or above letters.
Above.
Yeah, good. Well done. Which sentence is correctly punctuated? The printer's ink cartridges are empty. Well, it's the same every time, so I don't need to read it out. But if you have a look at them on the screen, which sentence has the correct punctuation?
Is it C?
Yeah, well done, because it's only the printer that has something belonging to it.
Oh.
Well done. Which sentence again is correctly punctuated?
A?
Okay,
A
so
or D?
D. Well done. Yes. So
Yeah.
we wouldn't use double punctuation at the end of a sentence. So